Thank you. Thank you for walking into the track for innovation on social impact. My name is Haripriya Shivaramakrishnan. I work for State Street Global Advisors, carry over 19 years of experience in banking industry, very passionate in understanding products and been volunteering with PLF to support them build a community of product leaders. I'm very, very honored today to introduce our speaker for the session today, Mr. Arun Sanjay, Head of Products and Partnership at Dell Technologies. A little intro about Arun. Arun, I think I did a justification. There were a lot. I tried to squeeze in into a few sentences. Arun is an expert at building customer-focused businesses and has held multiple executive roles across industries, including e-commerce, media, real estate, BFSI, and telecom. He has successfully created, scaled, and optimized products and processes for a diverse set of consumers across geographies and demographics. In his current role at Dell Technologies, he works at the intersection of data-driven technology, policy, and development. Arun's work ethic is centered around building for customer. His mantra is to keep user at the center and work outwards from there. He believes in creating intuitive, fuss-free, dependable products that deliver seamless experiences to customers while retaining razor-sharp focus on business goals. His winning mantra or strategy involves executing big ideas with constraints, relying on data, working collaboratively with cross-functional teams, constantly learning from others, and never losing sight of customers. In his free time, which people may not know, Arun plays guitar and also spends time with his daughters. He finds both activities challenging and creative, which pushes him to prioritize and become a better problem solver. So next 45 minutes, we will love to have guitar, but what Arun is going to walk us through the fantastic work Dell Technologies is doing in public health sphere. The technology that Dell LifeCare builds touches the lives of 200 million Indians. We are 100,000 community health workers, enabling continuum of care for non-communicable diseases, making it an integral part of India's flagship public health program, Ayushman Bharat. Arun will give us a glimpse into how technologies, clinicians, academia, government, and social sector come together to address this societal issue at scale. Arun, looking forward to over to you.
Thanks, Haripriya. Um, awesome introduction. I wish everybody I knew also felt like that about me. So thanks. Am I audible? Okay. Um, Before we start, just wanted to with a quick show of hands, right? How many of us here are specifically in the product space, right? Either product managers, product builders, so on and so forth. Okay. And how many of us here are in the marketing slash communication space? Okay. Technologies? Oh, everybody. Okay. Okay. Have I missed any other segment? Yeah. Sorry. Services? Services? Okay. Awesome. Just wanted to get a sense of who I'm speaking with. Um, my name is Arun, and I work with Dell Technologies. We work within Dell. We are working in the CSR function. Um, so the work that we do is around um, something called NCDs or non-communicable diseases, very fondly known as hypertension, diabetes, stroke. Like you see everybody around you going through all of that. Those are the NCDs, right? These are non-communicable. Basically, you get them because of your lifestyle, right? It's not God's hand in it. It's not something happened. You did something mostly, or and you got it, right? So that those are NCDs. In a very lighter note, obviously, there are a lot of socio-economic indicators and factors that play a role in it. But the other flip side of NCDs is called CDs, or communicable diseases, which are mm, tuberculosis, malaria, so on and so forth, right? So the typical journey of a country would be more like you start off with communicable diseases, and as progress happens, you are able to eradicate most of the communicable diseases like polio, so on and so forth. We've heard all these vaccines, right? You eradicate all of them, and then you become kind of comfortable and really comfortable, and then you start getting your NCDs, right? Which is all your lifestyle led diseases, right? This is a very high level of what happens. Um, WHO um, had come up with a SDGs. Okay, these are your development goals for the 195 member countries of WHO. Um, it's a multi-pronged initiative. It touches many areas, right, from primary education, gender equality, health, so on and so forth. There's a 15 or 16 of them, okay, and all the member countries have decided to participate in that, including India. Okay, just giving a little background to like segue into what we actually do, right? Um, so, like I said, one of the SDGs is also health, right? Primary health is like a big SDG. Uh, just to give you a sense of things, like a person in a rural setting, if they fall sick, for example, if they had fever and they are not able to go to work for 3 days, he or she may not be making the money that they make on a daily basis, and it is plausible that they may shift to below poverty just for a fever, right? And now you can think of hypertension, diabetes. These are chronic, these are silent, kind of once you get them, like you own them, right? Like it's very tough to like come out of it. So this is the nature of the social, economic, and the health situation in the rural places, right? So being healthy also ensures that you are your head is above water in terms of economic viability, right? Now if you take this to across the country, what that means is that overall the country also prospers if the population is healthy, right? We hear it when we are children, like healthy, wealthy, wise, and all that, right? But this is what it is actually. Like if you really break it down, the healthier population kind of is able to work, and thereby the population becomes richer, and so on and so forth. There's an exponential curve on GDP and social wellness, right? So as social wellness increases, GDP grows. The reverse is also true, until you reach to the long tail, right? Once you reach to the long tail, for every increment in the social index, the GDP that is required to push that is very high. I won't bore you with the statistics of it, but broadly, there's a connection between health, wellness, gender equality, education, all of this, and the GDP also, right? Like that's if there's one takeaway, this is one takeaway. There's a loose connection between both of them. So now that 195 member countries are participating in this, including India, this responsibility was taken up by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And there are many programs, um, from reproductive child health, basically for vaccinations, for women who are pregnant, tuberculosis, so on and so forth. One of such of those programs is also called the CPHC NCD program, Comprehensive Primary Healthcare for NCDs, right? Dell happens to be a partner in this initiative by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. We are a technology partner. One small thing is, like these kind of public health programs, they have a bazillion partners. It just doesn't happen with one ministry standing up and one technology guy making some apps, right? Um, you have AIMS, you have DGHS, the Director General of Health Services, You have NHSRC, which is the policy maker, and in India, health is a state subject, right? So every state independently can choose to do what they want to do. The center just gives a directive. It is not incumbent on the states to follow it. Okay. Then you have a lot of NGOs who are working on this space, a lot of private players working on this space. So this entire health systems in India, the public health system, I'm not talking about the private, the public health system, it is built on partnerships, right? It's built on all kinds of partnerships, right from technology to field implementation, um, policy advocacy, the ministry, the political establishment, right? Everybody comes together. Only then this happens. So for NCDs in India, under Ayushman Bharat, the program that is running, how many of us have heard about this? About the NCD program in Ayushman Bharat? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Tanya has also heard, but she refuses to raise her hand. So, um, uh, so this program in India consists of multi-tiered health workers, right? At the village level, there is the Ashas, okay? Um, the Asha level workers are, in Hindi you call it Panchayat Niyukti, right? So it's you don't apply for the job, so to speak, but the Panchayat appoints you, and all Ashas are women, okay? Then in a village of 1,000 people, there'll be one Asha. 5 villages together will have one nurse, and 5 nurses will report into a public health clinic. It's a small dispensary slash hospital, a hospital that people like you and me never ever go to. Okay, but it is like once you start going and once you see it, you realize that it is reasonably well equipped and we can go there. But we are that 70% of the Indian population who will go to private spaces for healthcare. They will not use the government systems. So 5 Ashas report to one ANM. They don't really report, I'm just telling it so that it's easier to wrap your head around. 5 Ashas work with one ANM. ANM is auxiliary nurse midwife. 5 ANMs work with a public health clinic. Public health clinic is where the first time somebody will meet a doctor, a qualified MBBS. Okay. So if one Asha is taking care of 1,000 people, by the time you reach a public health clinic, that public health clinic is kind of serving 25,000 citizens. Okay. Broadly, this is the health structure, and it keeps going on, right? After the public health clinic, it'll go to a community health center. From a community health center, it'll go to a district hospital. Example of a district hospital is any hospital in a medical college, right? Chances are it'll be a district hospital, right? So this is the public health system, and the Asha has been given the task of going to every house in her village, and there's a checklist that she needs to administer to them. Ask them questions like what's your weight, what's your height, what's your waist circumference, do you have any bad habits, good habits, so on and so forth. Is there a chulha, is there pakka ghar, is the water good, blah blah blah, right? As she fills this form, right, at the end of it, depending on these socio-economic conditions, is when there's a risk score that will come up. Okay, what is the risk that you have of getting one of these NCDs, right? So the Dell system today takes care of 5 of the NCDs: hypertension, diabetes, oral, breast, and cervical cancer. Okay, people above 30 are most prone to getting it. Okay, and people above 30 almost never go for these checkups. Okay, and in the urban setting also, right? So the Asha actually ends up going to each of these houses, doing that entire assessment, and then saying that you are at risk, you are not at risk, so on and so forth. And for the people who are at risk, she will encourage them to go and meet the nurse. The 5 Ashas, right? These 5,000 people, they will go to that one nurse. And that one nurse will probably take your BP reading, probably will like do your sugar strip, and so on and so forth. Sometimes they will even do a cervical scan, breast exam, so on and so forth, right? She then refers it higher to the public health clinic where they meet a doctor who will diagnose them, give them medication, so on and so forth. If he has to send them upwards, he'll send them to a community health clinic, a district health clinic, and backwards also, right? Once they've gone, they've got the treatment, they've got the medicines and gone home, right? Now they've come to a district hospital, they're from a village, they've taken the medicines and gone home. Now the Asha ensures that the medicines are dispensed to this patient in their village. Okay, that's the public health system that's there in India. I didn't know about this until I joined Dell, and when I heard of it and when I actually saw it in action, I was amazed at the access to health that India has. And all of this is free. All of it is free. Surgery is free, medicines are free, consultation is free, everything is free. Even then, 70% of the people will walk into a private health clinic, right? There have been case studies where women who have had breast cancer, they have cut down on their food expenses in order to pay their medical bills. But governments like India and all the 195 countries, they provide all of this for free, and people need to go and avail those facilities. This is a background of what this entire program is, just to give you, like, you'll be able to relate to what we build and why we build, right? So if you look at it, this is how the whole thing goes, right? What I just mentioned, from the village through to the tertiary centers. There's obviously weak infrastructure, patients who get diagnosed. Like we do that, right? We went to a doctor, something happened. He said, take this medicine for 5 days. 3 days maybe are fine. We stop having it, right? Because all our mind is geared towards symptomatic stuff, right? Whatever episode is happening, once that is done, we are fine, right? We don't care about the medicine. Also stems from the fact that it is very easy to put your future self at risk, right? Abhi theek hai na, like sham mein jayenge bahar, right? What will happen after 2 months, 3 months? It's very easy to put our future self at risk, right? We'll work out from next month, right? 31st ko we'll make a resolution. Everything is like in the future, right? So that lost to follow up part, right, where people go and they just drop off, they disappear, right? And how do you track them, right? India is coming up with a lot of public infra, right? Like how you heard the Aadhaar, UPI, and all of that. There's a new initiative called the ABDM, which is the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. In under that, you have this new health ID that's coming in. What the health ID also does is makes everybody addressable. All doctors are there in registries, hospitals are there in registries, bed availability, everything is digitized. Think of it as a UPI. And for the people who want to like orient on the UPI, UPI was a service that was made by eGov, right? And UPI does only one thing: it transfers money from one bank to another. That's it. That's all it does. And then along came Paytm, GPay, PhonePay. They took UPI and they built on it, right? Now you can pay utility bills, phone bills, right? You can transfer money. There's a lot of things, right? So these are the public infrastructure that India is building. And India is one of the, like, probably the only country who's doing this, by the way, right? So they're building something for health also under ABDM, and that will be a health ID. There's an entire health stack on that. So India is growing by leaps and bounds on the digital infrastructure. A lot of work is happening. So, in our system currently, um, this is the kind of numbers that are enrolled in our system, right? It is like 41 crore and all that, right? The numbers are obscene, right? We make, we don't make like apps that are like good to look at, or like it's fun to like, it's not like I'm getting bored, let me open the app. It's not that app, right? It is a hardcore utility app. And all of them, there are small things that we build, but we make sure that each of them is built to scale, right? Because it's for the entire country, right? So our thing is build small but build for scale, right? So if you, this is the kind of coverage we have. Our so while we are a technology partner, we also have a deployment partner, right? Like somebody who goes to the field, right? The people who we are dealing with, like the Asha, like I said, a Panchayat Niyuti, probably she'll be a fifth pass or a sixth pass, right? How does she get to use the app? So currently, what's happening is you go with deployment partners, field deployment partners who will go and train on the app, right? For us, it is Tata Trust. Tata Trust happens to be the largest philanthropic organization in India. They do this for free for the government of India, right? So they are the ones who go and train. Just to give you a sense of like how we started, 2014, um, there was one pilot. This entire program is headed by a lady called Sunita Nadamuni. She's extremely passionate about the social space. She's the one who started in 2014. They were in the US, they came back here specifically for this cause. And they started the first pilot with an NGO in Bangalore called Karuna Trust. It's headed by Dr. Sudarshan, who's a Padma Shri winner, by the way. So it started off there. Then it went to Andhra Pradesh. Andhra actually was pretty progressive. This was like 2015 16, right? They were doing really well. From Andhra, it went to Telangana. And then in 2018, when these SDGs came, we also approached the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. In 2018 is when we started off with the government of India, right? And when we started off, there was like this big committee of WHO, AIMS, like you name it, like the who's who of the clinical world, right? Those were all the expert committee, and that's how this entire journey started. Today we are at 400 million people who are enrolled. What does our entire thing have? I won't go into a lot of details, but basically what this means is each of the health workers have an app for them, right? The other thing is administrators. This side of the circle are administrators. Basically, what the work that gets done needs to get monitored, right? So from a village, district, taluk level, there are officials, right, up till the joint secretaries, the IAS cadre, right, who sits in Delhi. All of them also have apps that they use to monitor. The holy grail of doing something like this in public health is that it needs, there's something called continuum of care, and everybody in public health will talk about it. Continuum of care means from the time you're like first time I come and talk to you, and if you have a risk, up until the time your condition is under control, you are always addressable, you're always reachable, you're always in the system, you're coming again and again. That's how it's going to be under control, right? So that's the holy grail, and doing it for a country, easier said than done, right? With the kind of complexities. So for the people who are in product, I think from that side, this is the product specific steps, right? It starts with enrollment, screening, examination, diagnosis, and treatment. At each of these stages, there are product interventions, and these are some of the features. Coming back to like uh, in the Q&A session, if there's specific product questions or specific communication questions, I can answer. I just wanted to give a sense of what is it that we are doing and how digital helps India today, right? So these are our users, right? Like the Asha, CHO, MO, data entry, and these are all like professionally shot pictures. That's why they're looking like this. But when you go to the field and see, um, they are like regular village people, right? And you are working with them, and you need to teach them how to use your app, right? This is the kind of queue system that is there in the public health clinics, right? When we go to a hospital, there is a token, we are sitting, the token number comes. This is what happens in a public health clinic. Not all of them, but on a last vast majority, right? There'll be a desk, there'll be a doctor sitting, he'll be surrounded by patients that he needs to address. Now if you juxtapose both of this, right, here people, you can say up to this year, this, right, digital literacy is diminished. Okay, they may be literate, but digital literacy is diminished. MOs and all are people who've just done their MBBS. They'll probably be there for a 2 year thing before they do their PhD, right? And there's one data entry officer. He's the smart guy in the village who knows how to operate a computer, right? These are the people who use our system, right? Now, if you juxtapose this with this kind of load, how are they ever going to even do any data entry, right? On top of that, there is no internet. Like internet is patchy at best, right? So how do you do that? On top of that, you have phones which have a 3 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM, right? Some of them are on Android 5. So what do you build? To what spec do you build, right? And you can't even like deprecate older APK of yours because the devices are not upgraded, right? Because some of the devices are given by the government, some of them are bought by the people themselves, right? So you have no control over devices, there is no internet. This is the kind of load that the health workers are facing, and this is the kind of digital literacy that people have. So we are building for this audience, the audience also known as Bharat, right? We don't necessarily build for the audience that is represented by people in this room, including me, right? We are building for the villages, right? So what does this mean, right? What happens? Like you've made these apps and so on and so forth. So what happens? They're not nobody forces them to use it, right? And it's not like an Amazon. If you use it, you get a discount or you get a free delivery. It's not like an Insta that आधा घंटा time pass हो गया. Nothing will happen, right? It is their hardcore work, right? What they normally do is they'll be using registers like this, okay, or small books like this, and filling out forms. This is their medical record of the patient, okay? A patient who has to come for at least 2 3 years before his hypertension, diabetes or cancer will get controlled. This is a medical record. This book, that book you see on the top, that small one, in the villages you'll get it for 5 rupees, okay? Outside they'll buy and come, they will write. So when the doctor sees them, he will look at the book and say, okay, what did you have last time, right? It's kind of impossible, right? Today I've changed a village. Like a Bombay scenario, let me tell you. Like if you are working in Thane, you go to a hospital in Thane, but you live in Bombay. So you keep changing the location of your hospital. So the digital systems need to enable continuity, right? Wherever you go, I should be able to look at your record, right? All of it is asynchronous, right? Because of limited low resource setting, no internet connectivity. You made one entry for me, but tomorrow I went somewhere else. He's going to make an entry. Tomorrow, when you sync your device, my entry is going to get overridden, right? These are all the considerations that we build in, right? And people very easily they'll go back to like the physical stuff. Also, another thing is the establishment that will actually review this, okay? They will walk in and they'll say, register dikhao, right? Like they will not say, show me your digital app, right? So, but this is where hope is not lost. When you look at their personal phones, these are all the apps they have, right? They're using all these apps somehow, and they're using it very successfully, right? I have a lot of Ashas and ANMs who follow me in Insta, and I follow them back. They'll send me reels which are like funny and all that, right? So all that is also happening, right? Now this is one lady who I met through my journalist friend here. Her name is Rohini Pawar. She's from a village in Maharashtra, okay, and she's a digital creator, okay. She's not only a health worker, she's some kind of a quasi social activist, okay. But she's the exception that proves the rule, huh? But I'm saying that this is the level also that people are operating in, right? She's a social activist. She does a lot of stuff for her village. She runs multiple businesses, all of that. So people are pretty industrious. Just to give you a sense of it, like right in the beginning when we are talking to Ashas and all, why do you do this, right? Because they don't get a, they get like a performance linked payment, right? They don't get salaries, so to speak. There's an honorarium, okay. So they have a lot of work, and NCD is one program, right? Then there's maternal health, tuberculosis, like so many things, right? So they are the ones who take care of those 1,000 people that I was mentioning, right? And they're like very overburdened. So we asked them like, why do you do this? He said, भैया अच्छा लगता है, गांव में सब लोग दीदी बोलते हैं, कोई लोग डॉक्टर भी बोलता है, तो डॉक्टर सुन के अच्छा लगता है, right? Like they are part of all the functions that happen in the village, right? They are treated with a lot of respect, right? At the same time, if it's the middle of the night and somebody has a problem, they will call them, and they will call them is one thing. The second thing is they will get up and go right in the middle of the night. and they'll make sure that the person is taken care of, right? I mean, this is like the example of Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think, right? Like people are doing it on their own, like in the village, right? So, um, this is the health worker life. Like this, some of the ANMs and all, they'll wake up in the morning, they'll have their cows, they'll take the milk, they'll take a bus to somewhere. Sometimes the medicines are over, so they'll borrow somebody's scooty. They'll bring the medicines from the public health clinic to the village. Their problems are very different. Their problems are, Bhaiya, when I'm bringing it back, some of in the bump, the vials are breaking because I have to keep them in the middle. Can there be some solution to that? This is all. I mean, they're all talking about the practical stuff, right? They're not really focused on stuff like personalization, gamification. They're not really focused on. They're actually trying to do something that will make their life easy, and we need to embody that same language and the ethos, right? Like whatever we do has to be of help to them, right? Now this is the other part, right? So where I said like people go out and they train, right, on how to use the app, and then the other day we were looking on YouTube. This is what the YouTube creators are doing. They have made YouTube channels. Okay, these channels specifically talk about the application that we have made, screen to screen. How do you enroll quickly within 3 steps, right? What are the 5 things you need to do if somebody has hypertension, right? We have not sponsored them, we have not commissioned them, they're doing it on their own, right? So people are using digital, right? Even though the the environment is not so conducive, right? They are using all of this, right? That's the effort that everybody's making, and everybody's so sincere about like what they're doing, and that pressure on a product person or an engineering team is so huge, right? You can't go and say stuff that you think is very creative, right? It has to be something that is relevant, right? So for example, one of the questions in the CBAC is that assessment form, right? One of the questions is, does the person drink alcohol? Okay, and the ashas and ANMs will come and ask us, can you give us the ability to edit this field? So we'd ask them why, like what's the big deal, right? Like you enter it. He said, no, no. Actually, he's telling me that he doesn't drink. But I know every day with my husband he's going and drinking, right? Like, how should I do this, right? So, like, really earnest about what they want to do. And they're asking, what these are product features, right? Like, they're asking us for product features. If you go to Gujarat, you'll hear stuff like, how do we put Elasticsearch into this, right? Because recommendations are not coming properly. That level conversation, but at the MO level, like at the medical officer level. But what I'm also trying to highlight is the heterogeneity for what we are building, right? The audience is so heterogeneous. There is no bullseye segment that we're building for. It's a heterogeneous community, like coast per badle pani, char coast per bani, right? Like everybody is so different. Like within Karnataka, you will find like 50 different types of preferences, and we are building for them, right? It's interesting, sometimes frustrating, but at the end of it all, it is very fulfilling. As a product person, you'll feel fulfilled when you see the people using, what we build for them. So we are in the middle of a rehaul, so just wanted to tell y'all also about what we are doing in that rehaul. Um, we so regular UI UX stuff that we do, right? Like we sit in a room, we talk to 5 people, and we get a sense of what is happening. We know what is flat design, material design. We know all the stuff that is prescribed, and we work alongside that, right? But in our case, when we started off, this is the number of people that we went to, right? And we went from the north till the south. We couldn't do it in a room. You had to go and find out like what is it that they want, what is the problem they're facing. Because if you remember, 2018 is when we built, right? In 4 years, their thought has evolved, internet proliferation has increased, devices have become better, use cases are changing, right? So when you overhaul, you have to overhaul the whole thing, and you can't do it in a siloed way. You do it some based on something you hear from Karnataka, maybe totally not happening in the north, right? Somebody is using a 1 GB phone there, it won't work. So one design exercise looks like this, right? what we figured out is like we looked at the disease prevalence, right? We said, let's say the world consists of 100 people, right? 37 people are above 30 years. So that's our beneficiaries, right? Beneficiary means we are helping health workers who are helping citizens, right? The apps are going to be used by health workers who are going to use those apps and enter information about the citizen. So we are helping the helper, right? That's what it is. So 37 people will be above the age of 30 in India. That's the number, right? Of these 37 people, based on the percentages, 7 people will be diagnosed with either hypertension or diabetes. I'm just keeping it hypertension and diabetes because cancers are a different story in themselves. The 7 people who are diagnosed, they will come to our facilities once every month, right? So they'll have 12 visits. And the remainder of 30 people, they have to come once a year. Jan 1st, you got tested, 2022, 23 Jan 1st, again you'll come to figure out whether you're still okay or you have to get tested. But now, if you look at it from a public health system standpoint, this is like a full blown concierge service, right? Like the people will come to your house, they will assess you. That's the push that the government also has. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has it. In the urban space, you don't have that facility. You're joining a new company. The company says you have to pass medical test, means you'll go, right? Or after 1 year, they'll say you can avail a free medical service. You may or you may not. But in this case, the health worker comes to your house. It's like a full blown concierge service, right? So 7 people will visit 12 times a year, and 30 will visit once a year, right? So there's a high frequency and there's a low frequency. So what we did is all the high frequency interactions cannot happen in more than 3 screens, right? These are the only 3 types of screens that you have to interact with. This is specifically for the product people in this room, in case you're interested. There's only 3 types of screens, right? And for the others, the low frequency one, there are 7 types of screens, and those 7 types of screens are like your Tinders and the Bumbles, right? You can swipe them left or right. Because what we also saw is swiping is a gesture that they are familiar with. Okay, so we we are building stuff like this, right? Like new age stuff. Normally, you would like to think village, na, so you can just make something. But Facebook has more users from rural India than they have from the country that Facebook was spawned in, right? Snapchat only thrives on Indian rural users. TikTok, Indian rural users made TikTok successful across the world, right? Same thing is happening with Instagram, right? So if you look at the TikTok CMS, it's like so difficult to actually wrap your head around it. But you look at the rural youth, they are expert users of TikTok CMS. Now it's banned, but then it was, right? But anyway, so we thought that there's no point in like not giving a world class experience or experiences that they are used to, right? So then we kind of built screens like this, QR codes, right? Like the questions that you get, like if you do a Webflow or any Figma prototyping, right? And you are testing a QR code. If the QR code is failing, they will ask you 10 questions, right? And they'll keep on trying. And you ask them, why are you trying so much? QR code failed, na? He said, yeah, but you need to give me an error message. Otherwise, I am thinking that the system will work anyway. So they're used to systems being reliable. They're used to systems being stable. They're consumers of those systems, right? So you are making systems for scale, but they need to be fully stable, right? It can't be buggy at all, right? Another thing that we realized is across the board, the 3 V's are working: vernacular, video, and voice. English, even in the south, it doesn't work, by the way. It only works in the urban setting. But once you go a little ahead, even to Mysore, for example, people are speaking Kannada, right? So, vernacular, video, voice, that's the only way to go. If you want people to adopt your systems, you need to be able to speak their language. They need to feel that the app is speaking to them in a language that they think in, right? So that's the other takeaway that we had. Also, this is another thing that we are piloting. We don't know how it's going to work out. Spotify rap, right? At the end of the year, it makes you feel like a rock star for just sitting around and listening to music, right? You listen to whatever, right? This ghazal you listen 500 times, you got love at first sight with this ghazal. This kind of stuff is what you hear in Spotify, and you actually feel, wow, maine suna hai. But what it, like, like, just makes you feel so happy. So we thought, what if, like, these guys are also doing such meaningful work, right? Can we do a rap for them, right? Can we tell them that, hey, Miss Asha, because of you, 1,000 people are in the healthcare system. 50 people got cured from a disastrous condition like a cancer. 700 people are, their diabetes and hypertension is controlled. Can we at least tell them that? Can we tell our policymakers that look at the rap when you're talking to your healthcare, when you're reviewing them, right? Because this rap is only powered by the work that you do. It can't happen on its own, right? You have to do something in the app for this to happen. So we want to push these kind of initiatives at like a create these infinite loops, right? Like the self-fulfilling loops, right? You make a feature that everybody finds utility in, right? Like a health worker is now able to share it with her friends, saying that you keep telling me that the whole day I'm working and I'm not paying attention at home. This is the work I do, right? Is there a possibility? We don't know. We're still trying it out, but we are trying to bring this new age, features and stuff that makes us feel really nice and warm and fuzzy. Can we put it in rural, right? Broadly, this is what we are doing. This is an awesome team that does it. It's a really, really small team, um, always available around the clock. We are in 35 states. People feel free to like pick up the phone and call us. This is a mixture of right from QC to engineers to products to architects to strategists and everybody. But everybody is on the WhatsApp groups of all the rural places. Everybody is accessible. That's the kind of effort it takes to make it happen. But after all of this, we are probably 5% along the way. The work that is there ahead of us is maybe 90% is still pending, and which comes to my next point. If any of you in this room wants to contribute in any way, we don't accept money, we can't accept money, we're talking about shramdan, right? If you if you this whole the whole thing was built on volunteer hours, by the way, in the initial days. If anybody feels they want to be associated with it, anybody wants to feel that they want to contribute or even have a conversation, please don't hesitate. In the public health space or in any social space, there is always a paucity of resources, a paucity of money, paucity of people, paucity of intent, right? If any of you think that you want to make a difference or even understand what we do and talk about it to others, please feel free to reach out. That was me. So I'm happy to answer questions if there are any. Have I run out of time? No, right?
So I'll go with the mental health part of it because I'm very passionate about that. So NCDs themselves, while we are catering to five, these are the top five that are prevalent in the country. But other NCDs are cardiovascular disease, ENT, eye, mental health, and for all public health programs, the government actually puts out a guideline on what needs to be done. Like mental health itself has 6 or 7 things, right? Right from epilepsy to depression, all of this is counted as mental health, right? So they have put out those guidelines, but these are all clinical guidelines. a lot of work is happening across the board where people are trying to make this entire thing digital, right? Normally what happens is people digitize it, right? Physical form, you took it and you made it electronic, right? Like enter the same thing here. But digitizing is like what most people do, but the tougher thing to do is how to make it digital, right? That is the space where a lot of organizations are working, specifically on mental health, right? And like you rightly said, in the rural space, primarily because of the awareness also now, we see that men's health, gender equality, all these are like issues that people are becoming more and more cognizant about. So that's one place that we are going to work, but it's going to be like sequential. The second thing on the data security part, since this is citizen data, and Dell is only a technology partner. So what we ensure is that, like, and we also make storage, right? We make infra, right? But we make sure that we keep one arm's length so that there is no conflict of interest. Dell sales does not go and pitch to the ministry that we are working in to buy infra. What happens is ministry themselves have bought the infra in BSNL. All the citizen data resides with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The custodian is NIC and the infra is also there. We only help facilitate stuff. In fact, we also have asked NHSRC and other organizations to hire people where production access is only given to not more than 5 or 6 people, because it's a very, very sensitive thing. Right? So, we are, Dell being a very responsible company, we are very cognizant of stuff about information security and checks.
Product development, if they are exposed to concept of user experience design, that assumes some technological sophistication on part of the process of study. Now, I'm very keen that we have a study on what does user experience mean for a person in the village who is not so technologically savvy. Is there a framework, comparison, then situation, so to speak, for user experience?
We haven't. So his question is for people who have not been able to hear. Is there like a comparison between the user experience that a village, a person in a rural setting has, and versus what a urban setting is? We haven't put it into a structure. We've just come. We are at the back of finishing this exercise. But broadly, I can tell you like most of the obvious things are not obvious. Right? Like for example, shopping cart, which we know is like a cart, right? Like you go to any e-commerce, just shopping cart, you know it's not obvious, right? Like, so symbols are not obvious for sure. Okay. The second thing is the help that is like we have helper text in the like you have an eye and you have stuff. They want somebody to speak to them, right? Like so that's a video, and they have to speak in their language, right? So, because they are at the village, right, and they're speaking it like full blown, right? They think in that language. So vernacular, video, voice, popular symbols. These are some of the like straightforward things that we have seen, right? And also they look at all of this from the prism of usability only, right? They are not interested in learning what you made, right? Like if you want to do this, then do A, B, C. Oh, this is the shortcut. They are not interested in that. They want something that will make their life easy. Right? If you go to like Himachal, for example, an Asha worker will, for that 1,000 people, okay, she will cross 4 mountains because it's so sparsely populated and it's the mountainous region. Here we are walking with our smartwatches at 10,000 steps, right? They are doing elevation of 4 mountains every day. So they don't want to know like what a brilliant mind you are and you made it and how they should learn. It's not that. It has to be fully relevant to them for them to even want to use it. Because nobody can force them. Nobody. That's but we haven't put a good question. I'm going to like put my head around this and like put something.
I will take one last question in the interest of time.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, in case of emergency situations, would you what value add do you see of the online doctor consultations? Because if an ASHA worker is with a patient in an emergency situation, does it make sense to have a quick call with the doctor, or is the network too bad for that?
So there are two ways how emergency situations are handled. One is by a government portal called e-Sanjeevani. Okay, e-Sanjeevani is teleconsult. Okay, so they are going to be able to solve it. But in the eventuality of which is more often than not, right, when you don't have connectivity, how it gets solved is what I told you in the beginning. They'll go to the Asha's house and say, this is what is happening. She'll call the ambulance guy because she knows him, and he knows that when she's calling, he has to come, right? And the whole apparatus will just kick in overnight, like in the night itself when it's happening. Unlike us, that we live such lonely lives, right? The security will not let the ambulance come. Right? So these are the two ways they are handling it. But e-Sanjeevani is really picking up, and there's a lot of work happening on connectivity. We are also working with UNICEF to figure out how to provide connectivity. So, but internet proliferation is really exponential, right? So it's solved. But there is a government portal called e-Sanjeevani that does exactly this. Awesome. Thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you so much. It was amazing to see how Dell is touching lives. Yeah. You want to give us? Yes. Deepika. I'll request Deepika to.
Thank you, Arun. I think, guys, it was an inspiring talk. Give him a big round of applause.